I like to do free giveaways at presentations, so today I have a couple freebies that people want at the end. I have an old Dr. Demento parody record. I got a cassette tape. Anybody wants to record any kind of audio. I have a Led Zeppelin guitar book for free if you have kids that are learning guitar. I also have Beat Street VHS tape if you're interested in showing kids about the history of breakdancing and hip-hop culture in New York City. It's pretty cool. And then I also got a remix device which works with the old iPods that you don't really see that often. So. And if you don't take it this time, it'll work out for the next presentation where we talk about like retro technology. So I'll get started. My name is Justin McCoy. I'm a teacher librarian at Greenwood Elementary School over on Fort Lewis in the Clover Park School District. And before I got into the library in 2010, I was a band director at Woodbrook Middle School in Lakewood, Washington. So the school I went to was a feeder into the program that I taught at. So this session, what I'm going to talk about a lot is music, technology, how to do it in your classroom, just some stuff that I've done over the course of the time I've been teaching. And also at the end, I'll talk a little bit about apps that we have for the iPad. And I'm going to get on stage here. And the goals that we're going to have for today is just inform about instructional technology strategies with music and show some digital tools such as MuseScore, which is an open source software program that you can download for free, GarageBand, and then also how to use your computer lab settings for doing music. And also I want to give just some strategies with the apps to support music. So here's a picture of my library. And in our library, our band program is, we have stands, bass drum, behind there's a speaker, and Mondays we do after school music, Fridays we do robotics. So here are like the robotics kids taking over the music space, and then when we do band, it looks a little bit like this. So we just move the Lego stuff over, it goes up above the fiction section, and then we keep the music stands that fold up in the back of the storage space. So we kind of have a flexible plan on how the kids set everything up. So the way they get the chairs is they get them out of the computer lab, they move them into the fiction section, they grab the stands, they set it up, and the rule that we have with after school band is you have to have your music, you have to have your instrument, a stand, and a chair. Once you have those four things, then you can start warming up. So that's kind of how it looks like. And then at about 5 minutes before our after-school program is over, the kids put it all back the way it should be. So it looks like regular computer lab and library. And it's nice to have some of the stuff like the guitars over there. You might be able to see them. It's cool because the kids can go over there, they can practice the electric guitars, and they're not amplified. So while kids are searching for books, a kid can go over there and try doodling around and find out if they like guitar. So it's just kind of cool. Now, before I got into the library field, as I was talking, I was the band director at Woodbrook Middle School. And I use technology with my students to create music and showcase our work, and also produce videos that we uploaded to our page. So this page right here is a shot of the YouTube channel that I had, and it's called youtube.com/WoodbrookMusic. And we have like their concert footage. I have some a couple screencasts of like walkthroughs of websites. I have how to play different chords. And it was, originally I did it with my Pro Cert as a way to try to outreach to families that were online a lot. And YouTube was growing in popularity around 2007 when I made my channel. And so I thought, okay, cool, the kids are using YouTube. And I would have kids come back and they would say, I learned how to play this Dragonfire song or whatever. And they would just sit down and play it for me. And it got really exciting. And I got on the district committee to change the policy for allowing us to use YouTube so we could be able to watch these videos. And it really has been a benefit to our district to allow kids to use YouTube because they're able to, I can put the instructional video up there, I can send the links to the videos through Skyward so the families can go directly and be able to watch the videos on their time when they can do it. So I've been a real big fan of using YouTube as a strategy. Now I have a video right here, and this is something that my middle school kids made to promote the band program. Here we go. So they did this in my
I learned guitar and how to play. Music is very inspirational to me because you can express your feelings.
Music is that it's your music with everyone, and then you can let others have music to it, and you can just read your stuff.
So that I made, the kids made that in 2006 as part of like their music class to be able to promote the program. So we would put that out on these DVDs we would burn for families of the concert footage. So in iMovie, we would throw in like the promo, kind of like a commercial, and then they could watch their talent show video or whatnot. And it was really cool because I really feel like video helped save our program because we were able to let people know out there, like, yeah, there's hundreds of thousands of people viewing our videos and they're learning, and kids are, like on Fort Lewis, you have a military population that's moving all the time. So those kids, they're learning in your program, and then they go over to Georgia or Texas, and then they can get into the YouTube channel, keep watching what's happening in classes, keep connected with their friends. I had a lot of kids that were going on, and that was how they were able to maintain their friendships with kids. So I need to move this over here. So the screencasting, here's just a little shot. You can see this was what I had at Empton at home, and I just set it up and just started shooting the videos. And what I started out was, I had Essential Elements 2000, and that was the method book that I was using for my band program. And they didn't have a guitar method book. So what I did was I took the flute method book, and wherever the flute fingerings were, I put a little guitar fingering chart. And then I had to make videos for all the songs that the kids were going to play, because Essential Elements comes with a DVD that shows the kids how to play, but not for guitar. So I went ahead and just made the guitar videos, and then in the tags on YouTube wrote Essential Elements 2000 guitar, and then like the number of the song. And the other band directors that started allowing guitars into their program were able to use these videos to help their kids out, so then they could play in concert B flat, the same music that we were playing in band. And it allowed another avenue for kids to get into the music program, because guitars are cool, they see it on TV, and it's just a way to get them in. And then over time, what happens with the kids that join the band program with the guitars is they see the other kids playing the flute or the trumpet or the tuba, and they say, hey, I want to try that. And so then they try it, and they still play the guitar, so they have that other instrument that they have that knowledge of. But then they join, and they can help you fill in your band and get your sound balance. So it's really nice. Like, guitar is one thing I did. And one regret that I had from middle school that I changed when I went to elementary was recorders. Like, I thought, like, okay, middle school kids shouldn't play recorders, but I was getting kids because they cut elementary music in our district back in the 90s. So what happened was these kids were wanting to play recorder, and they didn't get an opportunity to do recorder in their school. So they're 6th graders, all we have is a band program, and they could have been playing recorder if I would have made a go-between book with that flute chart like I did with the guitar for the recorder. So when I got to elementary school, I did that. I made a go-between book for recorder, and then I started making screencasts that were not guitars, but for recorders. So it worked out pretty well. Now, and here's just a little sample of one of the screencasts that's on my YouTube.
For Natalie's Rose.
Pause it, watch it when they want it, and I would get it on the YouTube channel, but I don't like to go get on the internet and for it not to work, so I just downloaded the videos and threw them in there for you. Yes?
Question, why YouTube rather than SchoolTube?
SchoolTube, I actually had a SchoolTube account, and I had a lot of problems uploading videos to it. And it was just, whenever I upload a video and it stops, I'll try it one more time. Then I'll try it a third time. After the 4th time, I'm wasting my time. So with SchoolTube and TeacherTube, I was having a lot of difficulties of it accepting my video the first or second time on the upload. Whereas with YouTube, it uploads it, you have a direct URL that you can see and test it to see if it works. So I mean, as much as I like SchoolTube, and I'll get to it in a little bit, with my elementary school one, I used youtube.edu versus just regular YouTube, because the Woodbrook Music one was just regular YouTube channel. And then in 2011, when I developed the elementary one, it was youtube.edu. And one of the differences I've noticed is that the EDU one, there's less sketchy content that you can kind of see when it starts recommending other videos versus the other YouTube one. But I mean, there's still that chance that a kid might click on something, but you know, we got to teach the kids to do the right thing when they're on the computers anyway. So I mean, they need to build that responsibility. So YouTube, it gives them an opportunity to be able to use the devices and make good choices, and then we can help guide them through those choices too. So another technology. Back when I was in elementary school and middle school, music technology was expensive. It was so much money to be able to buy the programs, buy the computers, and to be able to record. And now we have stuff like MuseScore, which is open source, it's free. You can work it on Linux, on Mac, on Windows. It doesn't matter. It works, and it's awesome. It's called MuseScore, and I'm going to do a demo of MuseScore here in a little bit to show how it works. And it's a lot like Finale, but it's an open source solution for those who want to get that. And what I've been doing is I have a Google Drive account that I have the software in, and when I go to my workstations logged in as a site tech, I'll just open up Google Drive, download the exe file or the disk image file, depending on if it's a Mac or PC, and then just start loading them, get the software on there, test it out, and then I had a full lab of computers where students could do MuseScore, and they could work individually on it. So yeah, I was using something called Notepad, which was like kind of a cheap version of Finale that was free for a little bit, but it was really limited. And my kids would go into the lab and they're like, I want to do this, I want to do that, and it just didn't work out the way it wanted, so I kind of had to back off a little bit. So here is a picture of the band program when I started at Woodbrook, and the way we worked it out was we Frankensteined a bunch of computers and hooked them up in the back so kids could rotate through centers in band. And they'd have to use like the padded headphones, and yeah, we would be rehearsing in whole group. It's a little noisy, but when the kids are dialed in on the technology, for some reason, they ignore the noise, and they'll just go through with it and record. So it gave students an opportunity to try out some different software. Like I had some Macs back there, we used GarageBand. And on the PCs, I had a license to Finale for guitar, and then another computer, I had an individual license for Fruity Loops. So the thing was, I had one license, one computer, so the kids would have to rotate through them. Whereas with MuseScore, I can have the whole lab licensed, good to go. And if you have a Mac lab, GarageBand, you can put that on your lab because it's free to download GarageBand to use with your kids. So, and I haven't found anything that's like GarageBand for PCs, maybe Audacity, but Audacity is not GarageBand. They're two different beasts. So I had maybe it's coming up here, I had a picture of what the music used to look like here. Another thing that I did with my students at the middle school was I took them to EMP each year. And this was a really good recruiting technique to get kids to stay in the program because our kids over at Woodbrook, they didn't really get out of the community a whole lot. They were stuck there, so going to Seattle was a big deal. And EMP, we would go there, at one time we did it each quarter, and the kids loved it. And they have a lot of technology there that's like professional studios. They can go in there, it's like $5 a pop, so it was affordable. And I think we had we took 2 buses up there. It opens at 10 a.m. for groups to go in. And we did it from 10 a.m. to 12:30, and it was short. And I take about like 100 to 140 kids up there, but they got so much out of it. And I just had to get real strategic with the kids when we took our EMP field trips to know that, like, okay, if you're going to go get your picture done with the karaoke rock thing, you better go now, or if you or you're going to be waiting the whole time. So trying to get them more aware of their choices when they go to EMP. Like, if you're going to record in the studio and there's a line, go to your next choice. And they have like turntables. They have these big drum pads. It's like I don't know, it's like a drum iPad thing. Really cool. And you can even burn a disc of the 10-minute jam session they have. It's like these kids will go in, they'll rock out for 10 minutes, and then they can listen to it. And even if they couldn't buy the CD, at least they got to hear what it sounded like. So that was pretty cool. And then like by the time I was leaving the middle school, the smartphones could record, so the kids could like record their audio or whatever on an app and not have to buy it. So that was kind of cool. So really recommend EMP as a field trip. Next, oh yeah, here's a picture of what my sheet music was looking like before I went to MuseScore. So it was all handwritten out. I would draw the fingering charts on there, and then I would scan it and make a PDF file and put it on the internet. So you can't interact with this, whereas in MuseScore you can move notes, manipulate it, share it in a community. And I got to a point where I thought, you know what, if I mess up halfway through, I don't like to use whiteout, I did it all over from the beginning. It just takes way too long. So that's what kind of pushed me into looking into other options like MuseScore. So MuseScore, open source software, it's really cool. And what I did to get this in my district was I tested it on a district computer. And once I tested it and make sure it didn't do anything funky to the computer and everything worked, then I went ahead and put in a software request to our teaching and learning department. And they have like this, I think it's like 72-hour approval process where they looked at it, made sure IT said it's okay, and IT told teaching and learning it works, it's not going to mess with our network. Go ahead, and then teaching and learning signed off on it, and then I was approved. So then, once that was approved, other music teachers in the district could use that software too. So by me going through that process, it opened it up to our high school, middle school teachers. All they have to do is just load it on, and then they have it there. And it is some nice stuff. So what I'm going to do right now is just show a couple screenshots and then do a quick demo of using MuseScore. And if you go to the wiki that I have, the NCCE wiki for this class, I have direct downloads for MuseScore in there. So if you just click on that, you can download that software program, and you're good to go. When you first open up MuseScore, it pulls up this piece called Reunion. It's their example piece. Kids really like to hear this because they can hear the capabilities of what they can do, and it really hooks them in. And another thing it has is an online community where you can get an account and be able to upload pieces, download pieces, share pieces. And the nice thing about it is you can manipulate it once you download the MuseScore file with the software program. So say I have a kid that downloads Star Wars, and they go, you know what, I want to change it into concert B flat. You can do that. You can transpose it. Or, you know what, I want to simplify this because I don't, like in this case here, it has a high C. And some of those beginning trumpet players can't play high C, so that person could go in and lower it down to a low C. So there's some cool flexibility with being able to do that. And also you can score by like getting a ton of different instruments and make your own scores, and then you can export the individual parts out as PDF files. So say you put your trumpet, your clarinet, your keyboard, your drums, you'll see the full score, but then you can export like, I only want to print out a drum part, or I only want to print out this. So it's pretty cool. And once you get into your music, you can enlarge it, the song, so you can be able to put the notes in. And what I do with teaching MuseScore is I have an interactive board, and the kids love using the interactive board with MuseScore because they can move the notes around, they can manipulate it, and it makes it more interactive. So I'm going to cut out here and show MuseScore. And let me exit the slideshow and open up MuseScore. So when you open it up, Reunion is the first piece. And I like to exit out of the community thing here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to hit play so you can just kind of see if it's working. Uh-oh. I don't hear any. You guys hear any audio?
A little bit slow. There you go.
So it's really nice program, and what I do with the kids is I have them go file, and just started a file new. And same thing with PC or Mac, it all works the similar way. Come up with the title, so I'll write Mr. M test song, and then composer Mr. M, and then continue. You can get different templates too, and I'll select woodwind here, and I'm going to get a flute. And I'm going to add a clarinet in. And then I'm going to hit continue. And then you can pick which concert key you want it in. So I'm going to make this one in concert B flat. And then I'm going to make it for 8 measures. And one of the things that I like with MuseScore is when I do the classroom-based assessments in music with my 5th graders, I'll have them write, they do their piece where they have to write the role. It used to be Roller Coaster Fanatic was the one I did with the middle schoolers. And I forget what the one that I think it's for a video game or something like that, for the 5th grade music CBA for instrumental music. And they would write it out by hand, and for their final draft, instead of writing it in pen, I would have them type it in MuseScore. And then they would have an electronic PDF copy of it. Then we can load it to the iPad, and they can use the iPad to be able to do their final presentation when it's videotaped for the last thing they have to do with the CBA. So I've been able to use this for doing classroom-based assessments in music too. So then, now that I have it open, the first thing I tell the kids to do is enlarge it. It's really hard, because I work with elementary kids, just to find the notes and get it in there. So what I do is I have them go to the layout and then adjust the page settings. And when you do that, there's a way you can scale it. And I have them scale it up to 3 millimeters, or a little bit over, and then hit OK. And then the piece of music, it's easier for them to put the notes in. Now, what I do, once I'm ready to teach them to put the notes in, I talk a little bit about the different beat values. So with the elementary kids, I say, let's stick with quarter note, half note, and whole note. And I'll let my drummer just do 8 notes. And that's kind of like their parameters. And I ask them to use notes they can play back. Because the intent for my use of MuseScore is that they're going to, if they can play 6 notes, use those 6 notes to write a song, because that's going to reinforce those notes. And if they're a drummer and they're trying to work with 8 notes, it's like, okay, use like a total of 8 notes over the course of 8 measures. So don't like just all do 8 notes, kind of selectively put them in. And it gets them to focus on like what they're working on at this time. And once I walk through the different notes, I direct them over to the N. And I say, N stands for notes. So touch N, and then you can start doing note inputting. So I'll put in a couple notes here that are really easy. And then I'm going to switch over to a half note. Throw it in. And then you can go back and play back and listen to it. And it's nice. And they do their best for open source, the sound of the instruments. Like, one thing that I do want to say that is if a kid puts in a note that's out of the range, it'll be red. So like a flute player, they shouldn't be, there's certain notes that should be out of their range. And if it's way out of the range, it'll show up red. For some reason it's not doing it. I'm trying to find a note that's, oh yeah, there we go. So that low B flat, you can't play it on a flute. So when it shows up red, it tells the kid, I don't know if you're going to be able to play that note back. So I tell the kids, if it's red, delete it, put a note that's within the range. And so that's one thing. And a lot of the 4th graders do MuseScore with the recorder. And to deselect the notes, you have to unselect the N, and then you pick the note you want to delete. So I'm going to select that red note, hit the delete key. So you can select it, hit delete, and it should delete it. For some reason, it is not liking it right now. Let me select a different note. I'm going to select that one, delete. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing this, but normally all you do is you click on the note, you select delete, and it deletes the note and it goes out of there. So I don't know why it's doing that. And to export it, you go File, and then just Save, and then you'll have some saving options. Now, when you save it as a MuseScore file, this is one that when you put it and upload it, so I'll call this Mr. M Test. Then they're going to be able to manipulate the document in the community. So that means that that MuseScore file, it's unique to MuseScore, so you can open it in MuseScore and then do your manipulation. If you go ahead and put it as a PDF file, though, this one's not giving me that option. So I did compress one. And I'll go File. Let's see here. Let's go File, Print. And then when I do File Print, it'll give me an option to like save it as PDF. I'll go down here to PDF. Save as PDF. And I'll call it Mr. M Loop. Save. And then I will, what do you call it, have that PDF file that I could open up and be able to put online so people can look at it on like the iPad, on the Droids, or the Surface tablets, or even on any web-based software. So, is there any questions, or like basic questions about MuseScore before I jump into the next software program? Yes?
Can you save the audio file so people can listen to the audio file later on?
I don't know if you can. You might be able to. I haven't tried it. What I would do for getting the audio file is I would open up GarageBand in the background and hit, and I'm going to show GarageBand in a moment. So if you have some sort like Audacity or even just like a Windows recorder, you can just have it record in the background, play it, and then stop it and edit the WAV file. And that's the one way I would do it. Other questions? Yes?
It's only available to use for computers and not tablets.
It'll work on, I think it works on the Surface, like in Windows 8, but on tablets there's a viewer, a MuseScore viewer that lets you load the documents and download them, but not manipulate them. So no, it doesn't work on like an iPad, and I don't know if it would work on a Droid, but I'm pretty sure the Surface, because we're getting Surface 2s in our district, and I was told that it would work in the Windows 8 operating system with the Surface 2s. So but I haven't tested it yet, so that's about as much as I know. So I'm going to move on into GarageBand here. And GarageBand is pretty much for the Macs. So since I understand, since I'm in a district that doesn't really support Macs, I mean, I have Macs in my library, but my district doesn't support Macs, and I respect that. It's all good. Now, I'll just be brief on the GarageBand stuff here, saying that. Now, GarageBand's great because they have lots of, Apple provides lots of videos on GarageBand, and you just select the software. It's free if you have an Apple. Select new project, and I'm just going to select the piano here. Again, I'll call this GarageBand test. And this program lets you export MP3 files and whatnot to be able to put into iTunes and input to your device. So one of the things with GarageBand is if you have a USB controller, and I brought my USB controller right here, these run about 100, 150 bucks. You can get them even cheaper on Craigslist, or I've seen them go for as low as like 40 bucks at like used music stores, some of the older USB keyboards. But they're really convenient for getting kids to practice keyboarding, not keyboarding typing, but this type of keyboarding skills. GarageBand's a great platform for kids to get used to using this keyboard for making multi-track music recording. So with it hooked in GarageBand, you have two different types of instruments. You have a software instrument that shows up as green, and then you can do real instruments, which would show up as blue. Now, a real instrument, if you use your onboard microphone, you can record in the real instrument what you're talking. You'll just want to make sure you turn the metronome off, because it will pick up the metronome in the background. So for the sake of that, I'm going to deselect the metronome, so it doesn't go, because it will pick up that sound if you're not wearing headphones and you're using the mic and just like a kid talking into it. But it'll work for kids like they're reading stories or they want to practice, and you have a practice room, you want them to go back and record it, and you can listen to it later. It's a great tool for doing that. I also have one of these things right here, and this is a thing that you can do for real instruments to hook in microphones, like XLR cables. So if you wanted your kids to sing using a really nice microphone, you can hook this up via USB, and they also sell FireWire ones that connect to GarageBand, and GarageBand recognizes those devices in the preferences. So if you went to like GarageBand preferences, you can go to the audio, that little picture of the speaker, and change whatever you're using. And right now, I don't have this hooked up, so I only have built-in audio. But they would show up whatever audio you have that's set up. And you can also hook in quarter-inch cords, like a guitar chord, or if you have a mixer going out, you can select it. Yes?
What is the cost?
The program?
No, the box.
This box, this is an M-Audio box. I call them just like a sound card, or a sound card interface. And now the sound cards are hooked up via USB. And when I first started doing computer music, the sound cards were like embedded into the desktop PC units. So you would have to like open it up and like put it in a slot, and then it would be in the backside of the computer. Now it's just these things, and they're a lot more portable. So like let's say you had a student that's using just the software instrument, they could have this hooked up, and then the kids needs to do a real instrument, they could hook this up to another computer. And when they're done, they can just take off the USB cable and hook it up to whatever computer they're using for it. So yeah, I really like these things. They run about $100 to $200 depending on the quality that you want. Another thing is I got these from Donors Choose, and if you haven't done a Donors Choose donation yet, they supported a couple of my music things, and one of them got me one of these devices for my library, as well as this thing right here. I think they used Best Buy and some other outlets that had music technology stuff that I was able to put into the Donors Choose project. So these are on there. I even got like an Alesis it was like an SR16 drum pad. So I mean, you can get some really cool stuff through Donors Choose, like these things to get your music station set up. So if I have the piano hooked up, it's touch sensitive. So if I play lightly, it'll be quiet. If I play loud, it'll be loud. And one of the cool things is they can switch from different instruments. So if they want to get a drum kit, the kids like the dance kit, and then they can play the drum set on the device. And recording is as simple as either hitting the R button or clicking on the red dot down there, and they can just start recording. And they can hit R to stop the recording. And when it's in software mode, GarageBand only records one instrument at a time. So if I'm talking in software mode, it's not going to pick up me talking. Now, in order to get a real instrument, I have to click on that plus sign in the bottom left-hand side of the corner, and then it brings up my choices. So I have software instrument, real instrument, and then electric guitar. Electric guitar is still a real instrument. It puts in sound effect thing, so when you have your guitar plugged in, it sounds rock, and the kids love that. But I will say that the rock sound sometimes has a delay that when you're in record mode, you'll still hear the distortion after they release the note, and you have to shut down the program. Maybe they fixed it, but I just remember having that issue. Now, these microphones right here, I love these ones, and this is what I've been really pushing my kids to using because they can do podcasts with them, they can sing, it looks like a cool old school microphone, and I also use these for screencasting. So when I'm doing like walkthroughs and I'm using Camtasia 2, I'll have this set to the side, and it's nice multi-purpose microphone for using that. And it uses the connection from all those cell phones that before they went to the little small cord. And I always seem to still have the other cords around, so that's how it connects via USB to this device. So what I'm going to do, just since I'm going to record myself talking to it. Hello, this is my dance song, and the beat's about to start right now. Hey, we're at the NCCE conference. This is awesome. Yay! And then now I can go back and listen to it.
Hello, this is my dance song.
And then you can do effects, and this is what the kids really like. They love to do the effects and to be able to manipulate the sound. So I can go over to edit, and I can pick different effects and select them. I can get a mixer in there, find some different EQs. Like, oh, let's try clear vocals, because it didn't sound that clear. And then it's like, did it clear it up?
It's about to start right now.
And then I can add compressor to it, and I can add a lot of echo. I can add reverb. So I mean, there's lots, and you just click to add an effect right here, and then it'll show all your different effects that you can choose from. And the kids, they like doing the, there's one where it makes the sound go up and down like Alvin and the Chipmunks, and that is like hands down their favorite. I don't know if it's speech enhancer, but reduce noise, voice type, female solo. Okay, here we go. So I'll go male solo, and then hear what that sounds like. So that had a lot of delay and echo stuff. So yeah, they can mess with the effects, do whatever they want. And you can add as many tracks as you want. It's really cool for teaching the kids multi-tracking. And they can also select, like let's say they're not comfortable with using a keyboard, they can select pre-recorded loops. And these are all like part of the software package, so they can just use them for projects and whatnot. And find different beats they like. Yeah, it's really nice. So one of the things, even though my district doesn't support Apple, they really like that I use GarageBand, and so that's kind of been a justification for how I've been able to keep the computers in there. Because like these are the workstations I'm using to support music and technology, and it's nice when you can just use these loops, because then kids can find different stuff like, oh, I want a guitar in there, so they can select rock, blues, find a. Just throw the loop in, and then so then they can go share the project and export it to iTunes, or if you're just trying to send it to disk to use it not on an Apple computer, but put it to like Google Drive or the cloud somehow, you could do that. And if you just want to save or export your file to disk, then you'll have an MP3 that you're able to like put on your personal device or move it to another computer. And it also, when it opens up iTunes, it'll, like if I go share, send song to iTunes, then it'll, I'll call it, yeah, it's a laptop playlist. You can pick your different audio settings that you want, and then just hit share, and then it'll send it into your iTunes. Now, another thing with GarageBand, it has, if you don't have one of these keyboards right here, there's something called online keyboarding that you can use. It's called musical typing, and it's where you use the keyboard on the device to play with. So it is over here. Well, while it's doing its magic of exporting to iTunes, I'll just I'll walk through what it does. So, oh, okay, it looks like it's doing. So you go to Control, I believe it is. There we go.
Hello, my dance song.
So it opens up in iTunes, so you can listen to it and preview it and see like, okay, I need to go back and remix it or change it up. And if you select the loop thing, it'll get it out of the picture. You can also use other Apple software programs by clicking on that little media file thing over there, and it opens up some other stuff when it wants to be good. But right now it's kind of having some times. This is my baby here. my newer, I don't like using the newer one. I like using the older one with the cracked screen for some reason. It's just sentimental. So when you go to Window and you go to musical typing, this will bring up a keyboard that you can use for playing software instruments, like the dance kit's a software instrument. The kids can record using that software instrument. Or if I want to add a piano, I'll put a piano in. And then I can, wait, what? Oh, that's not the type of piano I want. I want a software instrument. I didn't select it right. Okay, so I get my piano up there, and then you can use the Z key to go down octaves. And then you can use the X key to go up octaves. So yeah, it's really nice feature. So if you don't have these USB keyboards, you can still use this stuff on board. Are there any GarageBand questions before I move on to the next? Yes?
You take a CD and split it into tracks. So not tracks, but I mean the parts. So say you've got two people singing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some way you can take
Yeah.
that CD and split it into the respective voices?
Yeah, what you do is you solo it out. So when you hit, but I think it's the headphone that solos it. Let me double check. So if I hear this, so you select the track, the headphone of the track that you wanted to export only that track. So if this was vocal 1, I would select that, and then go share, send song to disk. And then the next one, I would go, so I'd call this like vocal 1. And then I would deselect that and then go to my next track I want to isolate. So I would undo that and go to my next track and then share that song to disk and then call it vocal 2. So then I'll have 2 unique files that are only those tracks. And one of the things that the GarageBand, it is proprietary Apple software, and it does have its limitations. I'll be straight up with that. But I'm used to using a program called Digital Performer that'll allow you to record as many tracks as you have an interface to plug into. So if this thing had 8 ends, I can record 8 instruments at a time. GarageBand only lets you record 1 at a time, and the only way you can export is to solo them out and individually export the soloed tracks. So that's how you do it in GarageBand. So you have to go individually for each vocal part that you. So if you had like a trio, you would have to.
Can I talk about an existing CD?
Oh, an
You buy
existing.
a CD at the store.
Oh, you want to put that in there?
And you want to hear the soprano separately from the tenor.
Oh, you mean out of your own CD? I don't know if there's technology out there yet that, like it intuitively hears the score of the music and can pull out the songs?
Yeah, pull out different.
I've been waiting for that technology to come around for a long time, and I don't know if it exists yet.
Maybe
So,
you need to invent it.
I would love to. I'll go off on a really mini tangent. Sammy Hagar, when he joined Van Halen, I heard that David Lee Roth was originally supposed to sing all the songs on 5150. And so my dream was to find that software that could get the 5150, take Sammy Hagar's vocal track out, because it can intuitively find everybody's instrument, and then get David Lee Roth samples of him saying the same words as Sammy Hagar, and then listening to what 5150 would sound like with David Lee. But But I keep asking a couple of years, my friends that are in the tech industry, I'm like, have they built that technology yet? And the last time I checked was like a year ago, and they said no. So that's a little side bit there. So back into our presentation here. Where to go? The presenter's page. There? Yay, okay. So I cut through the GarageBand since I did the demo on it. Now, 4th and 5th graders, they do well with GarageBand. That's about the lowest grade levels I've had success with. The 2nd and 3rd graders, they like playing on the keyboards and hearing it. And when they get to the middle school, they can do some amazing stuff. And they get dialed in on it, and they start making songs that they actually perform at talent shows. It's really cool. So highly recommend GarageBand. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about was using music for research. And one thing that I do is I have my kids do a research project about a band instrument. So we use Destiny Quest to do our research about instruments. So I have a screenshot right here of when I typed in the word trumpet, all these books came into on my library that I have, like Essential Elements 2000. I have that in my library that students can check out, or students at the middle school, if they need to borrow the book, they can get it from me and they can use Destiny to find out. You can also find different information that they could use for like Big Six research around the instrument that they're looking at doing. So I have them use Big Six research project. They pick an instrument, and when they're done and they do their presentation, then they get to check out the instrument. And also we use WebPath Express, which has lots of websites that they can use to find out about their instrument. So what I did was I selected the grade level, picked it 3 through 5, and found some websites here. And then they can drag them into their own personal list to look at them for other times and to cite them and whatnot. So I really like the students researching about music, and that's another way for them to get some music education by using the research process and like the power of the librarian to teach information literacy. I do that by having them do research around music. Now, I had a rock band program at the middle school, and when I used Woodbrook, the music page, what I did was I made my own playlist where I picked videos that I wanted the kids to watch at home. And it was kind of like flipped classroom, where their homework was we worked and did our research in class and practice in class, but they had to go home and watch videos and then come back and talk about it in class. So I was teaching the history of rock music, and we also had a performance piece with it where we played. And so I had to watch these videos, and then we would come back and then discuss them in the classroom. And once you have your YouTube channel, you just put those videos in the playlist, and then the kids can go to that playlist, hit play, and it plays like a television program. And it'll just show each one in sequence that you have in there. So love YouTube. I can't get enough of it. And here's the rock band here. I'll just play a couple of seconds of them playing at Pleasant Glade Elementary. This is my 8th graders. Graduating this year, so that was within an 8th grade. So it was fun. The rock band program was a good way for us to be able to learn rock music, and then we had a performance piece and we took it to the elementary schools. And then we used YouTube to put the videos on the channel so they could watch them and share them with their relatives. And since we have a lot of deployed parents overseas, they can watch those videos in Afghanistan and Iraq, and it's really been convenient for those parents that want to be there but they can't. So it provides that opportunity. And we also had a band project, and this was another thing that taught the kids some research skills, but also real life application of being in a real band. So they had to like create a tour map. They had to go onto Google Maps and find out how far everything was to create a tour and how much gas would cost, how long it would take. They had to write a justification on why they wanted to play those cities. And usually it would be like, I have a relative there, and they would have to like write out their explanations and then present to the class their band project. And they also had to make one song. They had to make a 6-step dance move that they performed, and they had to make an album cover. And usually the kids would want to present the album cover and the tour map because they just had to come and talk about it. But a couple of the kids would play their songs, and it was amazing, and it really inspired the kids to want to keep with it and continue being musicians. So I really like doing the rock band project, and I've been doing it with my 5th graders, and they get really dialed into it. And we have like about 3 to 6 kids per group that do this, and then they go out to the playground, they work their songs and stuff. It's really fun. So that's another thing I've been doing with the kids for researching. Another thing is Mac and Via. We have a Mac and Via account at our school, and I put a lot of ebooks in there that I intentionally buy that are unlimited use. So this means that if our we have another music teacher at our school who's the official music teacher. I'm kind of just the after school program now. And she's able to have the kids go in and research all the books, and all 30 kids of one class can look at these books at the same time. And they can load them to their personal devices, they can do digital annotation on it, highlight stuff that doesn't make sense, and then come back and say like, hey, Mr. McCoy, I was reading about this trumpet, and can you explain this more? And I'm like, yes, thank you for asking your librarian. And it's really cool that Macavia has so many books in there for music, but just I recommend getting the unlimited ones, and the ones that I purchased are unlimited. So Another thing for communicating with families in music programs is using Skyward, or your student database messaging system. And this is how I like send out all my parent letters, my field trips, or even put the instructional video links within my Skyward message. So this one right here was from winter concert. So the parents could download the form because it was sent through the Skyward Message Center all of their emails. And it was so, I'm telling you, it's like night and day getting the permission form back using the Skyward Message Center to send it out to say, hey, get these back. Because the kids will somehow lose those pieces of paper. And I wish I had it at the middle school, but I highly recommend using this as a parent communication tool for your concerts, your events, your field trips. But just make sure that when you use the Message Center in Skyward that you select send email to parents. Otherwise, it'll just put it in the Message Center and the parents have to log into Skyward in order to see it. And I know we have a lot of parents that don't log into Skyward, but they all have smartphones and email. So that's one way to kind of get the message out. Another thing is creating an online music program. And I have an online music program, and I have a link to it on the wiki, so I'm not going to go through and show it all right now, but this is the screenshot of what it looks like. And if you look on the left-hand side, if you go to the links, that's where you can find a lot of the links that I have the kids do to practice. Also, in the beginning, music is my 4th grade music program with all the sheet music for students learning recorders. And then the beginning band program is for students that are starting to learn how to play in concert B flat on traditional band instruments, but it also includes recorders and guitars to accommodate more instruments. So there's lots of cool stuff on here, and I'm going to show a couple screenshots of some of the favorites. The kids love Sheet Beats. Sheet Beats is a program where it's free through like Harvard. Someone made this website a long time ago, and they can like make their own drum beats and play them out. And I'm telling you, like the really little kids, the primary kids, they can get into it, and it helps them with their mouth skills. Because I don't know if you've been experiencing this with primary kids. K2, they walk up to the desktops and start touching the screens because they're so used to tablets. And this is something that it forces them to use the mouse to select stuff to help them build those mouse skills. Because I mean, we're still teaching them typing at this point in time, so it's a good program for the kids. Another one is DSO Kids. This is something that Texas Instruments sponsors. It's a great website that has lots of cool resources for kids to listen to real instruments and high quality sounds. There's a game called Beethoven's Baseball where it asks them questions about like music history and theory. It's so cool. The kids just get dialed in to DSO Kids. Another thing that I use, these are all on my links page on the website that's in the wiki for this class, is musictheory.net. And they have an app too that you can use, but musictheory.net is great, and it has a lot of like tutorials on how to walk through and learn basic music theory. And then you can do an exercise afterwards, and it'll tell the kids in real time what percentage they get. And this is another activity that I like to do the exercises on the interactive board to get the kids using the styluses, putting the notes, selecting them, and then they find out their results in real time. And the percentage can go up and down depending on how well they answer the questions. So music theory is a good way to get the kids using technology to do music theory. Also, there's a site called Rhythm Trainer. This is also on the links page on my music website. And this is a great way for teaching those drummers how to play their different rhythms. But it's Flash-based, so it will not work on the iPad, or if you don't have Flash, the latest Flash installed. And then this is the YouTube EDU page that I have for the library. And what we did is I teamed up with a PE teacher, and we had the kids do Thriller, the Thriller dance. And it was so much fun because I was able to work with the PE teacher, do dance. We got to talk about beat and movement and performance in another realm instead of just playing on stage in the band. So, and then we put it up on the website too. So I'm a really big fan of YouTube. I think I've kind of talked a lot about YouTube, so I'm going to move on over. Another thing is iBooks Author. I made a recorder program through iBooks Author, and if you have an Apple and are interested in learning iBooks Author, it's not too bad, but it's really cool because you can make your own music textbooks and put the instructional videos inside. That's the front page of my recorder one, and then right here you can see the walkthrough of me playing the song right here, and then some instructions over here. And then they can export it out as a file that works in iBooks Author. It's really cool. So I highly recommend that if you have an Apple and you want to use iBooks Author, go for it. There's also, yesterday I was at a thing for the ck12.org ebook thing that you can do. So ck12.org allows you to make ebooks in a similar fashion, but it doesn't have to be in an Apple platform. So you can make your own ebooks, even using Sigil, which is an open source software like MuseScore. But I would show it to you guys, so it was crashing on me a little earlier, so I'm not going to do that today. The iPad. I wanted to talk real briefly about iPad apps, since it's we're almost at time here, I mean, I'll go a little bit over, but if you have to leave, it's totally cool. iPad apps. I load a lot of iPad apps for the kids to learn music, and it's great for them. They really get dialed into it, and they love it. I got like a virtual drum set, I got a DJ turntable, beat machine, and lots of really cool stuff here. So they can get on the iPads, and they're able to, this is my music class on the iPads practicing right there. So over here I have my iPad, and I'm just going to quickly show and tell a couple of the apps that we use in our class here at the elementary. So the audio goes through the projector with this, just because I have an HDMI cable, and whenever you hook an HDMI cable into the iPads, it sends your audio to wherever the other end of the HDMI cable is, and it won't play it out of the device. So the synthesizer is really cool, and we even had kids that played keyboard in our band when we did our Playshed concerts, use the synthesizer for their instrument. So what happened? Does it not like me? Wait, one more. HDMI, not good. Yes. Does that look like it? Nope. That's. Let's see here. Let me try it now. Okay, something is up here. This is really sad. Wait, oh. And top. Yeah, there we go. So, so they can do like, they just lap it and they play, and they love playing the iPads in concert. So just that's, if you have a keyboard player or a bells player, it's a nice extra instrument to have. For the little kids, Music Sparkle is really cool, and it gives them an opportunity to just try to play on like a little like xylophone and stuff. Nope, I do not want the My Little Pony thing. And yeah, they can just get in here, and it's real like kiddie type. So they can pick like the guitar or that, and just try the different sounds. And for some reason the sound's not coming through, so I'll jump to another app here. GarageBand is also on the iPad, so if you wanted to do multi-tracking with kids on the iPads, you can use GarageBand. It is a lot limiting compared to the software that you have there. If you've ever used iMovie on the iPad and you've used iMovie on the Mac, it's kind of similar on what you can and can't do. So yeah, and there's like curtain call demo, and you can do recording the instruments and pick a lot of the stuff here. So it's really cool, and it's optimized, so hopefully it sounds really cool when we do that. It also has the same thing. The green is the software instruments, and the blue is the real instruments. So you see like guitar, microphone, and then the other ones like that live rock kit. Those are all ones that they did using the software instruments on this device here. So it's optimizing, and it looks like we'll be able to hear it here in a moment. And I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to play it real quick here and then show a couple of ones. Yeah, there's lots of really cool stuff you can do with just the GarageBand one. And the last one that I like here is the tiny guitar. This is really cool for kids learning guitar that just want to like know one note at a time. And it'll show them where to put their finger on the fretboard. So see how the fretboard, that dot up there? So each time they're ready to play the next note, they just tap on it. So this is a cool app for learning guitar. Also, we have, I can't stop, guys, I'm sorry. MuseScore Viewer. This is great because you can just be able to, I downloaded this one a little bit ago, and I can look at it on my device and be able to, oh, I'm going to practice this, put it in front of my piano. And then if I wanted to download some, I can search the, or here we go, I'm going to go over to musescore.com, and if I'm connected to the internet, I can just find a bunch of different stuff like, this looks like a cool one, I'm going to download it, and then I'll put it on the device so I can go back and look at the sheet music. When I come over to my scores, I'll see, oh, Quiet Place is there. So that's a way you can share music and be able to switch it up. And, oh gosh, there's just so much good stuff. I have a bass tuner, so if you need to tune a bass guitar, you can just, what do you call it? Play the note, and then it'll, so you can tune your guitar. Same with Guitar Tuner, you just find the note you need to tune, hit it, and it'll play it for you. So yeah, that's almost it. I'll just show the last couple slides, and then if you have questions, you can stick around. the next session. I'm going to be in the next session too. So this is how I left the band program. I took all the technology out when I left the middle school and moved it into the studios. So it was more like they had recording studios in the areas where they practiced, and the band room was just the regular band room. So then I really realized that when I left, the kids needed to have that quiet space to do the recording work to make it be more meaningful and not in the band room. So it wound up separating it, but it still was in the same program. And here's a picture of the kids like on the keyboards, and they could have had the iPads, but they actually went with having their real keyboards at this Playshed concert. And it's really cool having stuff like MuseScore, and the kids, they just really did a lot out of it. So I highly recommend downloading MuseScore, GarageBand, got the apples, and thanks for coming. And if you have questions, stick around. And free stuff, if anybody wants it. Yep, right up here I have the Led Zeppelin book. I got the remix device for the old iPad. I got Beat Street on VHS, and I have cassette tape and Dr. Demento vinyl. Yeah, so if you want any of this stuff, this is free to the people here. Thanks for coming.